but I hope you can tolerate that. If you can't, dislike the stream, but if it's tolerable, then like the stream. Okay. Yeah. Yep. Let me know if this is too bad. How's my audio in general? Is it understandable at least? So we're, guys, we have to keep covering what's happening in Gaza because the whole world is watching whether or not the ceasefire will hold or not. So we're gonna cover this. And also given that I'm sick, I have hot water and honey. So you guys keep telling me in the chat to Armin drink hot water and honey. Okay, I have hot water and honey. Okay, it's here. All right, I have it. Thank you. So let's just get it. Oh, we already got a super chat. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention last time we have a super chat goal. If we get to 10, then I will hang around longer and chit chat with you guys in the chat. Okay, so that's our super chat goal. But we already have one by BT saying Salman Momika killed. His killer. Yeah, the guy in Sweden, the Iraqi guy in Sweden, who was basically blaspheming against the Quran. So his killer has fled to Iran. Thoughts? Is that confirmed? Is that confirmed? Well, if it is confirmed, I'm not sure if it's confirmed or not, but it kind of shows how Iran is one of the few remaining Islamic countries where the leaders are not cooperating with Western countries. I mean, as bad as the other Islamic countries are, they're not as bad as the Islamic Republic. At least the other ones, most of the other ones are within the are acting within the world order as it is, right? So, I mean, where would you go if you are a murderer of an blaspheming person against Islam? There are really not that many places to go without the government handing you in, the Islamic Republic. And this is actually shows how if we get rid of the Islamic Republic, so many of our Islamic problems worldwide will be solved, given that so many of the other Islamic countries are bending a knee to Western hegemony. Anyways, thank you for the super chat. Let's just get, guys, is my voice really bad or no? Like, is it okay? Let me know if it's like torture listening to me. But let's just get right into the show.
Guy Illouz was a sound technician for some of the biggest bands in Israel. Today, the sound check for his funeral procession. The 26-year-old was shot by Hamas fighters at the Nova festival, brought into Gaza critically wounded, held in Al-Shifa hospital, and died soon afterwards. On Monday, 2 years later, his body was released. No sound checks required in his hometown for this stereo sentiment.
Why she have to die so young? So I can't understand this.
Last night, the bodies of 4 people were released by Hamas and brought to the forensic center in Tel Aviv. But one of the bodies was not that of a hostage.
Okay, I don't know what they're doing. Hamas is just picking random bodies and handing it over as hostage bodies. So one of the bodies were not hostages. So the terms of the agreement has not been met.
These captives have been identified at the National Center of Forensic Medicine. Staff Sergeant Tamir Nimrodi, Uriel Baruch, and Eitan Levy may they rest in peace. They joined 4 deceased captives who were identified yesterday here: Guy Illouz, Bifin Joshi, Yossi Sharabi, and Captain Daniel Peretz. May they rest in peace. The remains of the 4th body that arrived yesterday from Gaza Strip is not associated with one of the deceased captives.
The future of the ceasefire and the fate of thousands.
Imagine being the family owner of that person that was supposed to, arrive, and then they tell you that actually this is a different person's body.
Thousands of people could now depend on the scientific work being done in this center. During a previous exchange, Hamas handed over a body they said was that of a hostage, which turned out to be that of a Palestinian in Gaza. Now, if that sort of thing starts to happen this time round, it could actually derail the entire process.
Wait, Jack in the chat is saying an Australian communist praised the Islamic Republic, saying that Iran, meaning the Islamic Republic, is the only Middle Eastern country not bending the knee to American imperialism. And by American imperialism, they actually mean the world order. And this is why it's very important to defeat the Islamic Republic, because once you do that, it's over. You know, the world order has won. If you get rid of the Islamic Republic, then it's game over. They lose, we win. So they are admitting that this is the last piece of the puzzle, because all the other Islamic countries are slowly bending the knee.
Last time round, actually derail the entire process. Last time round, the correct remains were handed over to Israel eventually. And in the last hour, Hamas has said they will hand over 2 hostages' bodies tonight. The text of the current ceasefire deal acknowledges that the location and identification of bodies will be difficult, but given the levels of distrust here, everything becomes more fragile.
Hamas, the terror organization, is required to uphold its commitments to the mediators and return all of our hostages as part of the implementation of this agreement. We will not compromise on this.
In Gaza, the bodies of dozens of Palestinians were returned by the Red Cross, released by Israel. Work to identify the deceased is ongoing. The setting, what's left of Gaza's health system. This afternoon, the funeral procession of Guy Illouz made its way along the highway to Tel Aviv, guards of honor on the overpasses, and finally to the Ra'anana cemetery. His father, Michel, arrived, surrounded by the embrace of a community who'd been waiting for this funeral for a long time. During the eulogy, he addressed the condition his son was returned to him in and spoke to Guy directly.
Wait, I need to read this for you guys.
And spoke to Guy directly.
Hold on. He's saying, I kept my promise to you. Hold on. I kept my promise to you. I looked at you. I breathed you in. I breathed you in for the last time. And yes, I kissed your forehead. And I saw your beauty even in the state you came back to us in. I love you, Guy, my beloved eldest son. Rest in peace.
The end was a dignified affair for Guy Illouz and his family, something so many others during this war can only dream of.
Now, Israel has now handed over the bodies of 90 Palestinians to Gaza's health ministry. Its forensics team says some of the bodies were still shackled and they bore signs of torture, like many of the Palestinians who were freed on Monday. The UN says the Israeli military continues to kill civilians around the lines its troops withdrew to. Harry Fawcett has this report, which contains some graphic images of injury.
Gaza's people have suffered through 2 years of Israeli bombardment, but since it stopped, there are other stories of suffering now being told by those who are taken from Gaza and held in Israeli custody. In December last year, an Israeli ground incursion targeted the Kamal Adwan hospital in the far north, calling it a Hamas stronghold, detaining its medical director, Dr. Hussam Abu Safia, and more than 200 others. Among them, 28-year-old Mahmoud Abu Foul, who came home to Gaza as part of the mass release on Monday. Home, now a tent, with a mother and brother he'd longed to see again, but now cannot. He lost a leg in an Israeli strike in 2015. He says his lack of mobility meant he wasn't able to leave the hospital, where he'd been seeking refuge when it was stormed.
After my arrest, they transferred us inside the Israeli territories to detention centers, where I was interrogated. I was beaten and tortured, and as a result,
I don't know. Okay, first of all, I don't know if any of this has been verified, and also, what was this person's crimes? Did they mention?
of this, I lost my eyesight. The blows were mainly on my forehead and the back of my head.
It happened, he says, at the notorious Sde Teman detention center. He says after one beating, he was left unconscious for 2 hours.
When I woke up, I couldn't see well, and soon after that, I completely lost my vision. The treatment was extremely bad and harsh. There was no medical care at all. They only gave me eye drops and ointment.
We put his accusations to the Israeli military. It has not responded. Like Israelis, Palestinians and...
Yeah, I mean, they could just be. I mean, I'm not saying it happened or didn't happen, but this is a so-called Palestinian radical. I don't know if you should just broadcast what he's saying without actually fact check, making sure that it's correct.
Gaza are welcoming back the dead as well as the living. Israel returned 45 more bodies to Gaza today via the Red Cross. Our sources in Gaza suggest some of them were Hamas fighters killed inside Gaza at the beginning of the war. Others were blindfolded and handcuffed. Others bore marks suggesting they'd been run over by tanks.
The occupation forces had placed some of the bodies in refrigerators. Some of them are clearly identifiable, while others are difficult to recognize. We are waiting for the Red Cross to give us the names of these 45 martyrs.
And there were 2 more Palestinians killed today. The Israeli Air Force reportedly carrying out an airstrike in eastern Gaza City, in what Israel defines as a prohibited area near its military positions.
Yeah, so they're violating the combatants in Gaza. They're violating the lines that they're not supposed to be crossed. I mean, I don't know how many more violations does it take for us to just say, like, okay, the peace deal didn't work? Like, because if it was me, I would already say, like, okay, it's done, it's over. They violated the terms of the agreement. But for the rest of the world to be like, okay, this didn't work out, how many more violations do we need?
This is also killing Palestinians, engaging in gun battles with armed gangs, executing...
Oh, by the way, guys, there are so many different gangs and tribes in Gaza. I think 2 of them are being supported by Israel, but the one that has the upper hand is actually... You're not going to believe this, okay? There's another group that is now gaining the upper hand over Hamas, and they are actually more radical than Hamas. So look at, I don't know if the things are moving in the right direction. So Hamas seems to be losing ground to another group in Gaza that is crazier than Hamas. So yeah, if you guys were waiting for de-radicalization because of all of this destruction, we seem to be getting the opposite of that. Let me know if you guys want me to review those groups, because there are, I think, 4 main groups, one of them being Hamas right now.
Hamas is also killing Palestinians, engaging in gun battles with armed gangs, executing those it calls Israeli collaborators. President Trump says he's okay with that for now, but insists they will, after a period, disarm or be disarmed.
Okay, what's the period? Can somebody tell me how long do we have? Okay, so so President Trump is saying we're okay with them being armed right now, but let's just give it some time, and then after that we will disarm them. They will get disarmed. The problem with that, the problem with that argument is that this period is now being used to stabilize Hamas's position. Hamas is not like let us just get a few things done with our guns and then we will give it up. Hamas is basically saying, let's try to get a few things done so that we don't give up our power and our weapons and our control over Gaza. So it's not moving in the right direction. It's moving in the opposite direction. And here's another thing, guys. let me actually tell you how I'm very skeptical about any of this working. Okay, even if Hamas was being less genocidal, okay, and less radical, let's just assume that Hamas woke up today and they were like, you know what, let's cut it out, let's stop being radical, let's end this war, let's not wage war against Israel and Jews. This is our new way of thinking. Okay, I know that's impossible, but let's just imagine that. The thing is that even if they were being pragmatic and moral for the first time, the thing is that if they put their guns away, these other tribes will come and wipe them out, right? So they can't put their guns away, even if they wanted to, because there are so many other anti-Hamas groups in Gaza that would take it. If Hamas was disarmed, they would come and just take out every single one of them and their family for good measure. So Hamas doesn't want to disarm, but even if it wanted to disarm, Hamas can't disarm. Okay, if Hamas disarms, that's not going to just be the end of their movement. It's going to be the end of their lives. So if they disarm, they have to worry about these other tribes more than Israel.
For now, Hamas is in charge in the territory Israel has withdrawn from, promising to hand over more Israelis' bodies tonight, while emphasizing the difficulty of locating remains in the ruins. Next to the ruins, there are some signs of recovery, markets being replenished, bakeries reopening, but deprivation is everywhere.
There are no homes at all. There's no shelter, nothing. We wake up in the morning and look for a sip of water to drink. If we want to eat, there's no money and no work to do. This isn't a life.
The UN says more still than the 600 trucks a day being promised are now needed. Israel now reported to be preparing to reopen the Rafah crossing from Egypt to Gaza to both trucks and Palestinian citizens tomorrow.
Well, joining me now is Arab Barghouti. His father is the Palestinian political leader Marwan Barghouti, who is currently still serving 5 life sentences in an Israeli jail. He is described by his supporters as being the only leader who could win an election outright amongst Palestinians. Thank you.
Wait, which one? Who's this guy's name?
His father is the Palestinian political leader Marwan Barghouti, who is currently still serving 5 life sentences in an Israeli jail. He is described by his supporters as being the only leader who could win an election outright amongst Palestinians. Thank you for joining us. At one point, it was thought that your father would be released. Can you tell me what happened?
I think what happened that the Israeli government has made it very clear with a clear statement and an announcement that they don't want a political solution. They just want the cycle of violence to continue on this land. I think that everyone understands that my father represents a political solution. He's someone who has been a supporter for a political solution, a two-state solution for decades.
The political solution is that we delay the attack against Israel until we have a state, and then we have the international law protecting us, and then we have enough time to recruit, rearm, and build an army so close to Tel Aviv, so that when we overwhelm Tel Aviv with our might at that point, there's nothing else they could do. That is the political solution. So there's 2 solutions in the minds of these people. Either we fight now, or we play the game of diplomacy. We delay the fight until we're stronger. That is the political solution for these people. So don't buy this lie. Eradicate these people.
Now we've talked about this a few weeks ago, and this is exactly what the Israeli government doesn't want. Since he's been in prison, more than 800 Palestinians have been released with life sentences, with more, as you know, according to them, more security complicated cases. But with my father, they refused to release him because he has a political vision that is, first of all, acceptable.
Yep. So it's good that they didn't release him, because your father is part of the plan, a more clever anti-Israeli plan. The political plan, the diplomacy plan, is a more longer game that these people are playing against Israel. So the more obviously radical ones are easier to defeat than the less obviously radical ones.
By the Palestinian people, trusted by the Palestinian people, but more importantly, accepted by the international community. They don't want the dream.
I did ask David Mensa, the Israeli government spokesman, about your father's case a few days ago, and he said Marwan Barghouti is no Nelson Mandela. You know, he is a multiple convicted criminal.
I mean, a government that has faces like Ben Gvir and Smotrich and Netanyahu, I don't think that they're eligible or qualified to come and, you know, to evaluate people. My father has been called the Palestinian Mandela for what the struggle that he struggled for the Palestinian people. And as I said, he has a very clear political vision. It's not like he's hesitant about his political vision. He's been talking about it for years and years. And I think that it's very clear that the Israeli government is trying to punish the Palestinian people overall because they're not interested in a political solution. They're only interested in having us outside of Palestine. So, you know, the Israeli government has been working for more than 2 decades for the character assassination against my father. So it doesn't make me feel anything when an Israeli spokesman says that about my father. You need to ask the world leaders.
Yeah, I mean, look, there is speculation or hope that there may be elections for the Palestinian Authority, Palestinian government, within the next year or so. I mean, is it your father's wish to contest those elections and to be released in time?
I will have to wait until I talk to him. I haven't talked to him in 3 years. I think that knowing him, you know, in a few years ago, when we were supposed to have elections, he declared and announced that he will be running for president. And I think that this is an encouraging thing. You're talking about someone who's, again, trusted by the Palestinian people, and we haven't had a trusted leadership for a very long time. I think elections are very positive towards the Palestinian people and the Palestinian political system overall. We need more youth empowerment.
I mean, you had elections, and you chose Hamas in Gaza. You had elections, you chose wrong. This is the consequences of an election. All of everything that is happening, October 7th, and the destruction of Gaza are the consequences of an election in Gaza.
But we need more women participation in power. We need leadership that we actually trust. So it's not only about my father, but my father represents that voice that is reasonable by the Palestinian people. And I really hope, as someone who hasn't even voted before in my life, it's my dream that we have elections as soon as possible and we get to choose our leadership.
Is he someone who could also...
I mean, Israel gave you the opportunity to have your own state and have your elections. Like, why would we repeat the same thing that caused October 7th? Israel, at the request of you guys, evacuated Gaza, gave you your own state, gave you your right to self-determination, gave you the right to elect your own government, and you did. And we have been suffering the consequences ever since. Why should Israel go back trying the thing that caused the greatest act of genocide upon Israel in its history? Why would they try that again?
Reach out to the leaders in Gaza if he was allowed to communicate. Is he still effectively cut off?
I like how he talks about women participation, because to me it shows that, because obviously that's not what Gaza is like suffering from. Like, oh, you know what we need right now? You know what Gaza is missing? Like, we need to make sure that the people of Gaza get more women in politics. Like, I'm not saying that's not a good thing, but I'm just saying that doesn't come to my mind when it comes to the top 10 issues for the people of Gaza, right? To me, when he's talking about women participating in politics, shows that this is he's connected to leftist groups that he needs to say certain buzzwords for them to sympathize with his cause and get support and funding and shit like that, right? When he talks about more, like, because obviously the people in Gaza, if I go and I pick a random person in Gaza, I'm like, hey, what's the problem you're facing right now? And like, you know what we're missing right now? Not enough women in politics, right? I don't think that's going to be the thing that comes to their mind. The reason why he's saying that, I suspect, is because he's being supported by leftist groups, and he has to say things that makes them happy.
For the moment.
Yes, he hasn't been able to. We haven't had any access to him in years. In 3 years, we haven't been able to talk to him as a family. But the lawyer has been able to see him only 5 or 6 times. And yes, I do think that he.
And D has a good point. D in the chat is saying some of the women are more radical than the men. Yeah, and they think like, hey, like you give them a job in politics, like, hey, no, thank you. I'm busy popping out martyrs. Okay, my job is to create as many kids as possible to die.
Has the legitimacy and the moral authority to be able to bring and build the bridges between all Palestinian factions and to have political partnership between all Palestinians. And unity has been always his political legacy. If you go back to the prisoner's document in 2006, he brought every single Palestinian faction, and until today, it's the only signed document by all Palestinian factions. And that stated clearly that the Palestinian state will be built on the 67 borders. Resistance should be limited to within the 67 borders, and the targeting of civilians should be forbidden. So he is someone who is capable of taking political initiatives that are reasonable. He brought every single.
Oh, sorry.
Go back to the prisoners.
So listen, sorry guys, listen to this part.
To have political partnership between all Palestinians, and unity has been always his political legacy. If you go back to the prisoner's document in 2006, he brought every single Palestinian faction, and until today, it's the only signed document by all Palestinian factions. And that stated clearly that the Palestinian state will be built on the 67 borders. Resistance should be limited to within the.
So resistance should be limited
67 borders, and
to the 67 borders.
The targeting of civilians should be forbidden. So
the targeting of civilians should be forbidden. You know what that means? That means he wants to lead a war against Israel, but more in accordance with, I don't know, international law. Like, we would not kill civilians. These will be the borders, but we will. Resistance means war with Israel. So, I mean, I don't believe these people, but even if you believe them, you want Israel to free a person that wants to unite all the Palestinians, so-called Palestinians, to wage war against Israel, but with different standards. Why would Israel allow that to happen? Why would Israel allow all of these different groups to be able to unite under one person and wage war against Israel? Like, oh wow, you're not going to kill civilians. You're still, even right now, announcing that you're going to be waging war against Israel. So why should Israel allow that to happen?
He is someone who is capable of taking political initiatives that are reasonable, accepted by everyone, and that's exactly why this fascist government fears him.
Hamas says it cannot recover any more bodies of Israeli hostages without specialty equipment to clear rubble. The announcement comes after the remains of 2 more hostages arrived in Israel And just hours after Israel said one of the bodies handed over earlier this week was not that of a hostage. Frustrations over the slow return of the bodies has prompted Israel to threaten to cut the number of aid trucks permitted to enter Gaza, just as aid deliveries have begun arriving into the territory. The UN has urged Israel to immediately open all crossings into Gaza as per terms of the US-backed ceasefire agreement. Israel has yet to open the Rafah crossing with Egypt, Gaza's only one that does not go through Israel. All right, Aaron David Miller is a Middle East analyst at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. He joins me now for more. Aaron, welcome. Hamas says it has handed over all the bodies of hostages it has been able to recover so far, and it says that it's making great efforts to locate the others. As we try and move the ceasefire to the next phase, is it possible that this issue of the bodies could actually derail things already?
I think that's right, and this is the first crisis in an inevitable.
I mean, more than the bodies, I think the fact that they're not going to disarm, that's going to be even I think, okay, so there are three issues that everybody's focusing on: the bodies being released, 2, whether Hamas will disarm, 3, whether Hamas will give up power in favor of another government or another coalition of other countries managing Gaza or whatever that could replace Hamas. These are the three things that we need to look at.
Of the bodies could actually derail things already.
I think that's right, and this is the first crisis in an inevitable series of crises.
Oh, okay. I'm so glad that he's having a problem with that inevitable. Oh my God, I said it because I usually have a problem with that as well. So seeing a native speaker have a problem with that word as well makes me feel more confident.
That's going to occur here. You're dealing with two parties that are pledged to one another's mutual destruction. There's no direct negotiation. And the compensating factors, frankly, only one, which is Donald Trump. And the real question is now, I think, even though Hamas was only committed in the agreement to exert, quote, maximum effort, unquote.
Okay, listen to this guy. I'll be right back. 30 seconds.
To try to locate hostages. And there was no timeline given. The Israelis also have 360 bodies of Palestinians that they're obligated to return. So this is going to block, to some degree, transition from phase 1 to phase 2. But let's be very clear. Transition to phase 2 it's not as if we're on the cusp of a breakthrough with phase 2. Phase 2 is decommissioning, demilitarization of Gaza. Phase 2 is the deployment of an international stabilization force. Phase 2 is the formation of a technocratic government under the supervision of an international board of peace. So there's a lot in phase 2 that's going to take a very long time in order to put together. This is, it seems to me, they will overcome this. But it is going to create a lot of broken crockery, particularly on the Israeli.
I want to jump in there real quick. I want to get to phase 2 in just a moment, but you said...
Yeah, imagine if phase 2 is going to be so much more complicated with so many things that could go wrong. Phase 1 was a simple one. Imagine if we're having problems with phase 1, how difficult phase 2 is going to be. If phase 2 even arrives, because last time we had something similar like this, the later phases never arrived and war started again.
This won't derail it. Do you think then that the U.S. and Israeli government are on the same page when it comes to patience over this kind of bodies, the return of these remains? This seems like a big issue in Israel, obviously, for many of these families. The U.S. seems to be looking forward as much as possible. You think they're both going to get past this?
I do, and for two simple reasons. Number one, Hamas has an incentive. They have been persuaded, I think, rightly, to return the hostages because the hostages are no longer an asset. They're a liability. You've seen what's happening in the streets of Gaza. Hamas deploying police, executing and intimidating its rivals. Hamas is now back in an open way as a consequence of the fact that the Israelis have ceased their offensive military capabilities. So Hamas has a stake in trying to deliver on this commitment. Netanyahu, on the other hand, even though he may be under pressure to stall, to break the agreement, is not going to cross Donald Trump. So, yes,
Yeah, especially given what Donald Trump is doing for him. Donald Trump is basically for Netanyahu. He's getting rid of his. He's trying to help him. Oh wait, I need to Donald Trump is trying to help Netanyahu get rid of his court cases, which is, if he does that for him, Donald Trump. And again, I just saw that Israel has just passed a new law that makes it more difficult for, at least during the war, to bring Netanyahu to court. So they're reducing his court dates during war. So it seems like Trump's request at the Knesset to pardon Netanyahu has had some impact, but given that he hasn't obviously been pardoned, that means that Netanyahu is going to have a huge incentive to be on the good side of Trump, because Trump is very popular in Israel and Netanyahu not so much. So Trump has huge leverage right now over Netanyahu, even though Netanyahu did most of the work and Trump is now coming here and getting all the credit. But still, Netanyahu is not going to complain, because Netanyahu knows how much leverage Trump has over him, especially over these court cases.
I don't think we're talking about some sort of imminent return to a major Israeli military offensive in Gaza. The war, as we've known it over the past 2 years, I think more or less is over.
Is Hamas really trying to keep public order when we look at what it's doing on the streets right now? We hear that they're out there, they're still armed to some extent, supposedly to keep public order. Or is it possibly consolidating its strength during this transition period to what's supposed to be this new governing structure? How should we look at this?
I think it's all of the above. Hamas has to demonstrate that it survived, not only that it survived, that it's capable of extending its administrative control through intimidation and co-optation over the areas from which the Israelis have deployed. The Israelis right now control 53% of Gaza. Most of the Israeli forces have been redeployed from urban areas. Who else is going to even pretend to suggest they have capacity to maintain law and order? There is no alternative. Hamas is cracking down on the militias, the Dagmush clans, the Abu Shababs, anyone that they believe cooperated, collaborated, interacted with the Israelis. They're going to consolidate their control and eliminate these groups, and they have the capacity to do it.
Right.
Okay, so there is no, guys, when people say Hamas needs to give up power, I don't understand why people think that this is going to happen. Give up power to who? Give up power to who? Can somebody spell it out for me? Because nobody has yet given an answer to this. If it's not the IDF, if it's not Hamas, are we talking about the Palestinian Authority, who are the most unpopular in Gaza? The Palestinian Authority, the people in Gaza don't want the Palestinian Authority. Then who is going to, oh yeah, we have a peace plan, we have figured everything out. What are we going to do? We're going to get IDF out of Gaza. Hamas will have no role in the government, and somebody else is going to govern Gaza. Okay, wow, that's a great plan. Who is that exactly? Okay, who are we talking about here? Nobody has an answer to this, and everybody is just saying this as if an answer would just magically arrive. There is no answer to this. Who are we talking about?
As I mentioned, the Trump administration already talking about the next phase, deploying an international.
Yeah, guys, people are in the chat are saying Israel. Yeah, because there is no other option. There is no other option other than Israel. It's either Hamas or Israel. So choose. The only two who rules Gaza is either Hamas or Israel. So pick between these two, because there is no third option.
Force to create enclaves free of Hamas. Help us understand how tricky that is in reality.
Sounds great in theory, doesn't it? But the reality is, who's going to deploy? What Arab security forces from any Arab state or from any Muslim country including Turkey and Indonesia, are going to deploy their forces in a situation in which Hamas is still weaponized and the Israelis are still in half of Gaza.
And they're going to be more brutal. And they're going, like, guys, everybody's like, oh, Hamas, you're doing such an evil job. Like, oh my God, you're killing so many civilians in Gaza. Okay, Israel's like, okay, come. You wanna try? And we're like, oh, not us. I'm like, who? I'm like, come try. Come, you deal with Hamas. Turkey, you bring your soldiers, you deal with Hamas. Saudi Arabia, you bring your soldiers. Okay, UAE, you bring your soldiers to Gaza. Let's see how you do. Let's see how you do. Let's see how you do when you have to choose strategies that keeps your soldiers safe, or strategies that keeps the civilians safe. The more you try to protect the civilians, the more of your soldiers will die. The more you try to protect your soldiers, the more of the civilians die. Let's see if you could manage that balance better than the IDF. How about you give it a try? I don't think they even want to try. They just want the IDF to keep trying, and they're just sitting on the sides, just pointing fingers and complaining.
They don't want to put them, which Hamas is still weaponized, and the Israelis are still in half of Gaza. They don't want to put themselves in a position to be shooting Palestinians, the International Stabilization Force, and they certainly don't want to be holding Israel's coat while Israel shoots Palestinians. So right now, frankly, I think that's
okay. And to the people who say that, well, if it's not the IDF, if it's an Arab army, at least Hamas would not shoot them. Given the past 2 days, you see how wrong you were. Hamas is shooting people in Gaza. Hamas is shooting other people, other tribes in people who have Hamas's militants are now shooting their childhood friends. Their childhood friends from another tribe. This is a small area. Everybody knows everybody. So right at the beginning of the ceasefire, the first thing Hamas did is to go in Gaza and shoot other Gazans. You think this group is going to be like, oh, these are Saudi Arabia's army, my fellow Arab neighbors. We're not going to shoot at you. Are you fucking serious?
This is an untenable situation, and it reflects the basic problem, which is the Netanyahu government and Hamas's conception of the end goal in Gaza are mutually irreconcilable. Hamas wants to survive with the capacity to influence events there. The Israelis want to eradicate it as a military force and also undermine and eradicate its political influence. How you actually bridge that gap, I don't have an answer.
All right, that's Aaron David Miller. Thank you so much, Aaron.
And this guy, he says he doesn't even have an answer. Okay, he's Aaron David Miller, and he's an expert in international affairs. Okay, this guy looks at these things for a living. He has studied history. He has studied international relationships. He has studied military campaigns, and he's looking at this, and he says, "I don't have an answer." Do you know why he doesn't have an answer? Because there is no answer, because it does not exist. If we had an answer to this would have already been solved. Okay, the world has to realize that it's not like Israel is avoiding a solution to the Gaza crisis. There is no solution to the Gaza crisis. Israel is trying to survive, and you guys thinking like, oh, Israel should do this instead of this, you're fucking out of your mind. This is not something that like, oh, some armchair philosophers are sitting around and just like, if only Israel did this and this and that, things would have been better. It's not that easy. Okay, but let me know if you guys want to see a video where it explains the different groups in Gaza, because I saw a lot of you asking that in the chat, like, who the hell are these people? So I have a video. I have a video that explains that. Here.
They are home. The first phase of President Donald Trump's peace plan has been completed and has been a resounding success. It's been way more successful than many would have imagined. On October 13th, the remaining Israeli hostages in Gaza returned to Israel, thus ending the main justification for continuing a war that has lasted 2 years and 2 days. But now, with no hostages, with Hamas extremely weakened and Israeli forces withdrawn from large areas of the Gaza Strip, the really complicated part begins. We've already talked about this on Visual Politic. Now is when the real all-or-nothing gamble begins. It appears that Hamas has done it again. The group has re-emerged and is back on the streets in several areas of the Strip. Following Israel's partial withdrawal, militants and alleged police officers from the Palestinian group are regaining control in several districts, particularly in Gaza City. Specifically, the Palestinian group has mobilized some 7,000 troops, whom it has called up in record time. Some battalions have been formed in just 24 hours, and many militants are receiving calls and text messages with instructions to take up arms and deploy to the streets immediately. All this under the pretext of ensuring security and preventing chaos. Take a look.
Hamas mobilizes fighters in Gaza as fears of internal violence mount.
Not surprisingly, this is beginning to cause great concern, because it's something that many experts in Israel already warned about, but which no one wanted.
Guys, by stability, they don't mean like managing the traffic. By stability, they mean Hamas's stability.
Concern, because it's something that many experts in Israel already warned about, but which no one wanted to take into account when designing the peace plan. Basically, because then it would have been impossible to get anywhere. Let's remember that. According to the first phase of the agreed plan, Israeli troops will withdraw to positions closer to the border. In fact, it's estimated that right now, roughly half of the Strip territory no longer has an IDF presence. Well, this is exactly what was planned, but there's one problem. Without
Yeah, exactly. When there's no IDF, guess what happens? Hamas comes and kills people.
Longer has an IDF presence. Well, this is exactly what was planned, but there's one problem. Without Israeli troops, someone is going to take their place. There will be no power vacuum. And that is exactly what's happening. And it's good news, because as I said before, following the withdrawal of Israeli troops, it is Hamas forces who are taking to the streets again. And this is where the problem arises.
Wait, how is that good news? Did he just say that's good news?
Because as I said before, and that is exactly what's happening. And it's good news, because as I said before, following the withdrawal of Israeli troops, it is Hamas forces who are taking to the streets again. And this is where the problem arises that could seriously jeopardize the next phases of the peace plan. Hamas is regaining control of the territory. And when I say control, I don't mean just directing the little traffic there is, making sure there's no looting in markets and things like that. No, when I say control, I mean precisely this.
Hamas fighting in streets with rival militias after Israel withdraws terror group executing members of Dormish family in attempt to assert power.
For several days now, the images coming out of Gaza have been horrific and
which families?
Attempt to assert power.
For several days now, precisely this.
Hamas fighting in streets with rival militias after Israel withdraws terror group executing members of Dormish family in attempt to assert power.
For several days now, the images coming out of Gaza have been horrific and extremely alarming. And while leaders celebrate peace, there are some developments that are causing deep concern. Hamas is once again applying its savage iron fist in the areas where it has managed to deploy, and they are literally hunting down anyone who opposes them or who opposed them during the war. Of the estimated 7,000 Hamas militants who have already been deployed, some 2,000 are said to be exclusively dedicated to fighting rival groups.
I mean, guys, they kind of have to, because these people who they're also want to destroy Hamas. These other fractions, they want to destroy Hamas.
And that's not even the worst of it. Videos of summary executions in public streets are being circulated on Telegram channels affiliated with Hamas. Obviously, we cannot reproduce these videos here, but we can tell you what they show. They show people blindfolded and handcuffed in the middle of the street, being shot in the back by Hamas militants wearing balaclavas, in front of crowds who are recording the proceedings and celebrating with cries of Allahu Akbar. In some of these executions, up to 8 people have been killed at the same time. These are scenes that, believe me, are difficult to distinguish from others we've seen in the past with groups such as the Islamic State. It's Hamas's way of reminding everyone that they are still standing, that no one should be mistaken, that even if they're not part of Gaza's next formal government, they'll still control the streets, and that no...
Yeah, by the way, Hamas publishes the videos of the executions on their own social media outlets themselves. They really want other people to see the public executions. They want other people in Gaza to be afraid.
No one should dare to disobey. And not only that, there are also small street fights with gunfire between Hamas and rival groups, the most violent of which are taking place in the Sabra neighborhood of Gaza City. It's almost like a new war. And here's the thing, this may only be the beginning. Do you know why? Because what's happening looks like the beginning of an internal civil conflict in Gaza. A spark that could grow into a full-blown civil war between rival groups and clans in the Strip, and a witch hunt against alleged collaborators with Israel during the IDF occupation. Now, I'm sure many...
I mean that's not that bad though. It's bad for the people in Gaza, but it's not that bad for Israel if they keep fighting each other. It will keep them weak, and also they will have to keep coming out of their holes, and it makes it easier for the Israeli intelligence to monitor who's who and who's doing what. So, so this is good and bad. Bad is that if the civil war in Gaza will delay the plan of de-radicalizing Gaza, rebuilding Gaza, and basically giving it at some point to Israel. And it also continues the suffering of the people of Gaza. But the good part is that it weakens them if they're busy fighting each other. I mean, it does weaken them, but it also radicalizes the next generation. But at least in the short term, if they're fighting each other, at least they're not fighting Israel. But it's obviously not something that it was envisioned when people said, like, here's the peace plan. Now everything is going to be sunshines and butterflies. Gaza is going to have peace. Seems like we're going to have more war rather than peace.
Occupation. Now, I'm sure many of you are wondering, who exactly is Hamas persecuting? Who are these rival groups and clans fighting for power in the shadows? What can we expect from the next phases of Trump's peace plan? Well, we're going to tell you all about that next, because many of you may not know this, but within Gaza, there's growing opposition to Hamas's reign of terror. And here's the most interesting part. Some of those groups have rather unexpected allies. Pay attention.
Crushing the enemy.
As I was saying a moment ago, Hamas is currently fighting rival groups in Gaza in what could end up becoming a full-blown civil war. And here, many of you are probably thinking, okay, I know enough about Hamas, but who are these internal rivals? Who dares to stand up to them on their own territory? Well, this is where we get to a story that many of you might not know. Because even before the war, Hamas didn't control Gaza as tightly as many might think. Because although Hamas officially controlled the Strip, not everyone obeyed its orders. For years, there have been clans and minority groups that have stood up to them in very specific neighborhoods and districts, and they do so for very different reasons. Some answer to Fatah, Hamas's old enemy that governs the West Bank through the Palestinian National Authority. Others are even more radical Salafists, loyal to Al-Qaeda's ideology. And yes, there are even groups supported by Israel. Yeah, you heard that correctly. And of course, now, with Hamas weaker than ever.
What is such a mess, huh? So we have Hamas, we have ISIS affiliates, we have the Palestinian Authority affiliates from the Fatah party, and then we have some groups that are supported by Israel. And guys, this is why I say not everybody in Gaza is evil. I mean, to be fair, some of the people in Gaza that Israel is supporting, even they are anti-Israeli jihadists that Israel is supporting just so that they could fight Hamas. But there are also some people in Gaza that are not anti-Israeli and are being supported by Israel to fight Hamas. Gaza is the most radical place on earth. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's really bad. The views that these people have on average is like shittier than even Pakistan. However, there are even in the worst places, you are going to find some good people. That's why I don't generalize.
By Israel. Yeah, you heard that correctly. And of course, now, with Hamas weaker than ever after 2 years of war, with Israeli troops in retreat, and with an agreement that excludes them from power, the Islamist group has gone into panic mode. It wants to nip any attempt at internal rebellion in the bud. It wants to reassert its authority on the streets. The result, an express offensive against its enemies within Gaza. And the clashes are brutal. In just a few days, dozens of fighters have died in clashes that are not being talked about as much, but which could change the balance of power in the Gaza Strip. Now, let's get more details on the table. Who exactly are these factions? What do they want? And why now? Let's start with one of the most feared and historic groups, the Dogmush clan.
Okay, this is the guy. These are the people I was talking about. Let's actually get some captions here so we could actually.
The most feared and historic groups, the Dogmush clan.
Dogmush. Okay, Dogmush. So remember this clan, because apparently, other than Hamas, this is the most important one. Oh, thank you so much for the super chat, guys. We finally got our super chat. Appreciate that. Sorry is saying, long live Reza Pahlavi. We Iranians are friends with Israel. Oh, thank you, Sari. That's very sweet. Thank you so much. Okay, hold on. Wait, where's my hardcore? Okay, thank you. Yep, we do. We do. By the way, guys, so remember this name. Oh, let me highlight actually the super chat. There we go. That's the super chat. All right. Dogmush, the Dogmush clan. Okay.
And historic groups, the Dogmush clan.
Okay, so Amir is writing it in Arabic for me so I could read it better. Dagmesh. Dagmesh. Am I pronouncing it right, Amir? You're right, because I can read it in Arabic better than in English. Dagmesh.
Let's start with one of the most feared and historic groups, the Dogmush clan.
How do you get from Dagmesh to Dogmush?
Okay, so much for the basics. But let's talk about the group that everyone is talking about these days, the Dogmush clan. Because yes, there are several clans in Gaza that oppose Hamas, but Dogmush is by far the most powerful of them all. Now, who exactly is this clan? Well, pay attention, because we're not talking about a political party or just any militia here. We're talking about one of the most influential family clans in Gaza, with a strong presence in the Sabra neighborhood we mentioned earlier. And in the midst of the chaos of war, they've moved swiftly. According to various sources, they've looted weapons warehouses abandoned by Hamas and taken advantage of.
Oh yeah, so when Israel was attacking Gaza, this clan, the Dagmesh clan, they went and got out to the places where Hamas was holding their weaponry, and they stole all of it. They took advantage of Israeli attacks.
Of the situation to arm themselves to the teeth. This is nothing new. In fact, the clan's origins are almost a story of betrayal, because Dogmush emerged as a splinter group of Hamas between 2005 and 2006, just as the Islamist group was.
So guys, what do you think about the Dagmesh clan? Like, given that they're fighting Hamas, do you think that they are better than Hamas, or do you suspect that they are worse than Hamas? Give me your guesses in the chat.
Taking complete control of Gaza after a brief civil war against Fatah. And so, as a splinter group of Hamas between 2005 and 2006, just as the Islamist group was taking complete control of Gaza after a brief civil war against Fatah. And so, while Hamas was becoming the de facto government in the Strip at that time, Dogmush broke ranks and became even more radicalized. Its ideology is even more extreme. It embraces a Salafist jihadist line in the style of Al-Qaeda. In fact, they use their symbols, their black flags, quote Bin Laden, issue threats against the United States and the United Kingdom, and talk about global jihad, not Palestine as a national cause. In other words, if Hamas is an Islamist movement with...
Okay, so they're retarded, okay? Because Hamas basically wants the same thing, but they're more smarter about it, right? So, guys, if you want to understand the different, the three main groups of Islamic ideology right now, the three biggest powers are the Salafis, the Salafi version that came out of the Wahhabi madrasas that Saudi Arabia was exporting all around the world. That's number one. Number two is the Muslim Brotherhood, and number three is the Vilayat Faqih version of Shia, 12-er Shia Islam in Iran, and they're all trying to export their ideas. One came from Egypt, one from Saudi Arabia, and the other one from Iran, right? And they're all trying to export. Like Saudi Arabia is not trying to export their ideas anymore, but these two remaining ones are trying to export, right? So Muslim Brotherhood is more clever than the Salafis because they try to pretend that they are national movements. They are national revolutionaries for the sake of having a nation, right? And they also pretend, even though at the beginning they were against these methods, they pretend that they are now in line with using democracy, elections, and shit like that to come into power, right? Because they realize that to defeat the enemy, we have to use their tools. The Salafis, you can see from these three, the Salafis were the first to be defeated because they were so obviously not in line with the new world order and the way politics gets done, that every time they try to achieve their goals is they get wiped out fast. Like it's just basically ISIS and Al Qaeda and shit like that, right? And so this is like a spectrum. The goal of all of these movements is to destroy the world liberal order and Western powers and make the whole world Islamic, every single one of them. But some of them understand that you need to delay that objective and focus on trying to achieve some power, like use the national movements as a excuse for that eventual goal at the end, where you basically destroy all non-Islamic powers. So the more closer to the Salafi spectrum you are, the more retarded you are. But the thing is that the less retarded ones are more dangerous. And the more these Islamic groups, the more they talk about politics and diplomacy, the more dangerous they are than the ones that are actually just going boom, boom, left and right, right? Like the jihadis that are using Suicide West are not as dangerous as the Islamic groups that talk about diplomacy and elections and national movements. Even though they have the same goal, these other ones actually have the understanding that for strategic purposes, this is the game that we have to play right now. And the thing is that the world falls for it. So from all the Muslim Brotherhood factions, Hamas is the most radical one. So they are more easily identifiable as a terrorist group. But this group that the Zagmesh group, they consider Hamas to be, I don't know, Bid'ah or something non-Islamic, because they're talking about Palestine as a nation state, and that's not Islamic. Okay, as a Muslim, you shouldn't be fighting for a nation state. That is shirk. That is un-Islamic. You should be fighting for the Islamic Ummah and the Islamic Caliphate, not a nation state of Palestine. So these people are basically mask off and and more direct. That's what the difference is.
Hard, not Palestine as a national cause. In other words, if they're black flags, quote Bin Laden, issue threats against the United States and the United Kingdom, and talk about.
So these people are basically more transparently anti-Palestinian, right? So they are actually anti-Palestinian, and I'm not I'm not actually claiming that. They would claim that. Like if you, these are the people in Gaza that if you show them the flag of Palestine, they might spit on it because you're fighting for a nation state rather than the Islamic Caliphate. What happened?
Global jihad, not Palestine as a national cause. In other words, if Hamas is an Islamist movement with a political and nationalist agenda based on controlling Gaza, destroying Israel, and ruling Palestine, Dogmush goes further. Theirs is more of a holy war, and they aren't alone. They have their own armed wing, the Army of Islam, a group with links to Al-Qaeda itself, which is currently fighting Hamas most fiercely in the streets of Gaza. Why are they doing it itself? An armed wing, the Army of Islam, a group with links to Al-Qaeda itself, which is armed.
Wait, hold on.
Theirs is more of a holy war, and they aren't alone. They have their own armed wing, the
Okay, so just like the Qassam Brigade is the armed wing of Hamas, they also have an armed force that has its own name.
Army of Islam, a group.
Okay, not guys, you're not very good with branding. If you're an Islamic force and there's so many other Islamic groups and you want to name your army, you need to come up with a name that is more unique to you guys. Everyone else's army is also an army of Islam. So what the fuck is this name? Like these people, these jihadists don't know branding. Maybe talk to Trump. He understands branding.
Group with links to Al-Qaeda itself, which is currently fighting Hamas most fiercely in the streets of Gaza. Why are they doing this? To try to displace Hamas and take control of the streets in anticipation of what is to come. In recent days, some media outlets have run suggestive headlines. Israel is allegedly supporting Hamas's internal enemies. But beware, the story is not that straightforward. Because yes, some of these rival groups may be receiving outside help, but the Dogmush clan does not exactly fall into that category. In fact, its armed wing, the Army of Islam, has attacked Israel on more than one occasion. They have launched rockets, attacked IDF patrols, and even kidnapped Israeli soldiers. In other words,
guys, how optimistic are you about peace right now in Gaza, hearing all of this?
they hate Hamas, but they also hate Israel and anything that smacks of the West. The difference is that their war is not so much about territory or a nation, but instead even more ideological and religious. As I said, we're talking about a group that wants to impose its Salafist vision at gunpoint, and anyone who doesn't fit in, be it Hamas or Israel, becomes its target. So how did we get to the point of seeing shootings and summary executions between these movements? Well, according to local sources in Gaza, it all kicked off on Saturday the 11th of October. On that day, Hamas attempted to take control of an old abandoned hospital with the intention of setting up a new base there. The problem, the building was already occupied, specifically by fighters from the Dogmush clan, and what should have been a simple logistical operation for Hamas ended in a bloodbath.
The hospital had been used as a refuge by the Dormish family after their homes were destroyed by the Israeli army. Hamas reportedly demanded that the family vacate the hospital, but they refused, leading to an exchange of gunfire that resulted in several Hamas casualties.
Why is it saying Dormish now? Is Dormish something else, or is that just Dagmush?
Family vacate the hospital, but they refused, leading to an exchange of gunfire that resulted in several Hamas casualties, including the son of Commander Ahmed Akel.
Guys, get your pronunciations in order. Is it Dogmush, Dormush, and now Dagmish?
Exchange of gunfire that resulted in several Hamas casualties, including the son of Commander Ahmed Akel.
The confrontation ended, as we've seen, with several dead, dozens arrested, and yes, public executions. Many of those detained were summarily executed, and since that day, Hamas has vowed to hunt down every member of the clan until they're wiped out. In fact,
Why, guys, why are they doing the okay sign?
Public executions. Many of those detained were summarily executed, and since that day, Hamas has vowed.
Okay, what is this? You should be going like this. What is this? Why are they doing the okay
to hunt
sign?
down every member of the clan until they're wiped out. In fact, the message is loud and clear. If you dare to challenge our power, this is what awaits you. And to make sure the warning spread far and wide, Hamas distributed videos of the executions on its Telegram channels. They want everyone to see it. But they've also offered a carrot, amnesty for those who lay down their arms. Supposedly, anyone who does not fight against Hamas will be eligible for amnesty until Sunday, October 19th. And after that, well,
Look, look at this. When Qatar pays for construction in Gaza, they want to make sure that they put their flags on the trucks or the vehicles responsible for the construction, so that it advertise. Qatar is basically advertising its money spending in Gaza. You can see that they have Qatar's flags
against Hamas will be eligible for amnesty until Sunday, October 19th. And after that, well, after that, things could get much worse. Because Hamas doesn't just want to survive, it wants to take back control of Gaza with an iron fist, even if only informally, by ruling the streets, just like the Iraqi insurgency, the remnants of Saddam Hussein's Ba'ath Party, and the Republican Guard did under US occupation. Do you remember that? I'm sure you do. The United States controlled the administration, but the streets, that was another matter. And that's what caused the conflict to drag on until the Americans could no longer bear the casualties, the attacks, and the constant war. And that's something they now think Hamas could try to replicate in Gaza. Hamas and other groups like the one we're seeing. And this should concern us greatly, especially Trump, who's made this peace plan his own. Because, as we mentioned earlier, the real flaw in the plan was that it never defined who would control Gaza between the Israeli withdrawal and the arrival of any supposed international authority. In theory, Hamas should disarm and hand over power to a transitional government backed by a multinational force, a force that doesn't yet exist, isn't defined, and whose soldiers and lives are still uncertain. Countries like Indonesia, Egypt, and some Arab and European nations have been mentioned.
Yeah, sure. Let's see if that has gonna. Indonesia and Egypt's gonna send their soldiers in Gaza. Okay, let's see how that works out.
A force that doesn't yet exist, isn't defined, and whose soldiers and lives are still uncertain. Countries like Indonesia, Egypt, and some Arab and European nations have been mentioned, but nothing has been finalized yet.
I would love to see you guys try.
And here comes the big problem. Right now, there is no alternative government to Hamas, and the Israelis have already left large areas of the Strip. And to make matters worse, Hamas doesn't seem to have the slightest intention of surrendering its weapons.
Hence, no peace agreement.
So in short, the Strip is in an institutional vacuum with a radical group trying to consolidate its power just when it should be in retreat. And if Hamas does manage to regain full control of Gaza, the second phase of the peace plan could become much more complicated, because right now
there is no second part.
Everything is riding on one card, and the risk of the House of Cards collapsing is extremely high. Now, as I said before, Dogmush is not the only group standing up to Hamas these days. At least two other groups, smaller but equally determined, have also entered the fray. And here's the interesting part. In these cases, there are direct links to Israel.
So not the Daesh one. The Daesh one is not linked to Israel, but there are some other groups that Israel is supporting. So let's learn about those groups.
Apart from clans such as Dogmush, there are other armed groups in Gaza that are fighting Hamas. And pay attention, because in these cases, there may indeed be a connection with Israel. We're talking about groups such as Yasser Abu Shabab's Popular Forces, active in the city of Rafah.
Okay, that you should have shorter names.
Groups such as Yasser Abu Shabab's
Yasser Abu Shabab. Yasser Abu Shabab. Okay.
Popular Forces, active in the city of Rafah, in the southern tip of the Strip, and the Al-Mujahida clan, based in Khan
Al-Mujahid clan. Okay.
Yunis, also in the south. So what exactly?
Oh, Shani give a super chat saying, remember I said other groups will control Gaza? Well, do you think they're going to control Gaza, or is it just going to be a civil war? Because I don't know if these other groups are as powerful as Hamas. It just seems like they're just going to be killing each other for a while. Do you think any of these will be able to control Gaza? Yeah, okay. Amir is saying they are very dangerous. What do you think, Shani? Do you think that they actually are going to be able to control? Because I think they're powerful enough to cause a lot of headache for Hamas. I just don't know if they're going to be able to take control over. Oh no, so you're saying no, they can't. Okay. Yeah, control is a big word. Yeah, I just think this just looks like a mess. This just looks like civil war for a foreseeable future.
Are these groups? Ada clan, based in Khan Yunis, also in the south. So what exactly are these groups, and why does Israel appear to support them? Well, let's start with the Popular Forces.
Oh, wait, let's look at the Arabic
And why does Israel appear to support them? Well, let's start with the
Okay, the popular forces seems to be better compare in logo design department than other guys. This logo was designed by AI. I can see it. They know they have ChatGPT in Gaza. Guys, they have ChatGPT in Gaza. This is obvious. This is too well done. These people are so suck at logo design. This is the first time I'm seeing a logo that is decent. This is the first time in my life that I'm seeing a logo that was like good. This must be an AI generated logo. Do you guys agree? Do you guys agree? I think it's so obviously this is so obviously AI.
popular forces.
So wait, let me see.
They're in the south. So what
let me
exactly
look-
are
yeah.
these groups, and why does Israel appear to support
I
them?
want to see the
Well,
Arabic
let's
name.
start with the
القوات الشعبيات. القوات الشعبيات. So القوات will be forces. شعبيات will be popular. Did I pronounce this right? Again, I speak, so I'm reading the Arabic part, but my language is Persian, so I might be mispronouncing this. So popular forces, okay.
popular forces. This is a new militia created in the midst of war last year, with only a few hundred fighters. Its leader, Abu Shabab, is a Bedouin who spent several years in Hamas prisons for common crimes. No ideology, no politics, just a guy with a score to settle. Now, if you're imagining...
Wait, so this guy is just on a revenge plan? So he's not doing this for Islam or for national causes or for releasing the people in Gaza or for an anti-Israeli agenda. Hamas just did something and he wants revenge. That's his cause?
Created in the midst of war last year, with only a few hundred fighters. Its leader, Abu Shabab, is a Bedouin who spent several years in Hamas prisons for common crimes. No ideology, no politics, just...
Yeah, so this guy just hates Hamas. Okay. I just hate Hamas. That's my cause.
Just a guy with a score to settle. Now, if you're imagining a
He's a
secret
Bedouin.
Israeli cell operating in Gaza to overthrow Hamas, you can forget it. Because what we've...
Oh, so Ziv is saying that's not accurate. He's affiliated with Fatah too. Okay. You see?
Israeli
Okay.
cell operating in Gaza to overthrow Hamas, you can forget it. Because what we've here is something...
So the Israelis are supporting a group that is only a few hundred people? That's not a strong group.
In Gaza to overthrow Hamas, you can forget it. Because what we've here is something else.
Israel is providing weapons to a jihadist group in the Gaza Strip affiliated with ISIS, opposition lawmaker and former defense minister Avigdor Lieberman said.
Several...
Oh my God, guys, have we not? Okay, so wait a minute. Look at the source, guys. I'm not saying this is not happening, but look at the source at the top. You see it? I don't trust this at all. I don't trust this. Okay, I don't trust this reporting at all. It's from Haaretz. Okay, so yeah, I bet you Haaretz would say that Israel is supporting, their country is supporting an ISIS affiliated group. I bet you they would say that. I mean, I bet you that they don't even need any evidence for that. I bet you they would just print that without any way to back it up. Again, I'm not saying that this is not happening. I'm just saying that I need better sources than Haaretz. Like, hey, why are you guys using Haaretz as a source? You guys don't, like, what the fuck? How is this a credible source?
Affiliated with ISIS, opposition lawmaker and former defense minister Avigdor Lieberman said.
Several reports.
So for people who don't know, Haaretz is a very, very leftist, anti-Israeli newspaper. very anti their own country.
Would suggest that this is not a simple local militia, but a jihadist group that could have connections with the Islamic State and also with the Palestinian National Authority. According to some Israeli media outlets and opposition figures, the Jewish state may have been discreetly supporting this group in southern Gaza with limited weapons.
So guys, you see what I just did there? Like, people usually just watch these videos and they just like go through it and they just consume you see how damaging Haaretz is? Because it makes it, just by publishing an article, they just make their way in the middle of these educational videos. It's not just about the people who read those articles. It's about all the places that will now be sourcing them. And all these people who are consuming this information, they're not really paying attention to what's coming on the screen, what is the source is. And even if they see the source, many people don't know how biased and anti-Israeli Haaretz is. So this is how dangerous Haaretz is. Okay. Oh, so Sean is saying Israel really supports. I don't know what that means. Okay. So you're saying this is a true thing? Again, I'm not saying it is or it's not. I'm just saying that that's not a good source. But are you saying that they are actually supporting it?
Weaponry in return may have authority. According to some Israeli media outlets and opposition figures, the Jewish state may have been discreetly supporting this group in southern Gaza with limited weaponry. In return, of course, the group was expected to directly confront Hamas, and all of this through the Shin Bet, Israel's domestic intelligence agency. The objective would be twofold.
Okay.
First, to minimize casualties among its own soldiers, and second, to weaken Hamas from within with surgical strikes, infrastructure sabotage, and even the creation of small alternative models of government. But Hamas was quick to react. At the end of 2024, its men stormed the Abu Shabab neighborhood, leaving more than 20 dead, including the leader's brother. And yet, the group remains active.
Guys, imagine the movies that you could make out of this. Imagine being a group of militants in Gaza, and you're just a family, and you're anti-Hamas, and imagine all the politics there, and all the backstabbing, and all the drama, and all the little details that none of us know about who's connected with who. And I don't know, there must be so much there that we will never see.
And then there's the other group we've already told you about, the Al-Mujahideen clan, based in Khan Yunis. This clan has also created its own militia. And yes, it's also fighting Hamas these days, but that's not all. The Al-Mujahideen have even set up a camp for displaced persons, offering food, shelter, and protection with Israeli logistical support. It's a kind of safe zone beyond Hamas's control, set up shortly before Israeli troops began withdrawing from southern Gaza. And of course, this is no coincidence. In part of what many analysts call Israel's Plan B, a strategy that had been months in the making for precisely this moment, the moment of power vacuum following its withdrawal.
So who are these Mujahid people? How many are they? What are their beliefs? I want to know. This last group sounds interesting.
Visual Politic community, this is how things stand right now in Gaza. Between jihadist militia groups more radical than Hamas and clans supported by Israel, the Strip is on the brink of something much bigger, an internal war. And yes, Hamas is weak. Very weak, and its enemies are jumping at the chance to try to seize the power they could never conquer by force of arms. The problem is that there are too many players, too many clans, too many agendas, and too much accumulated revenge. This is no longer just Hamas against everyone else. It's practically everyone against everyone else. And in the meantime, Gazans are no longer fleeing Israeli bombings, they're fleeing shootings and executions among Palestinians. And this could turn out to be a major blow to Trump's peace plan. Because if Hamas continues to regain ground, the message it sends to the world is not that of a group willing to relinquish power, it's just the opposite. And let's not forget a crucial detail. Within Hamas, there are factions that don't even want to hear about surrendering their weapons. So yes, the plan could be derailed. And if that happens, the consequences are unpredictable.
I don't know what to tell you guys. Doesn't look good. And doesn't look good. It doesn't look like we're going to have peace anytime soon.
That's why it's urgent that countries wishing to support the stabilization of Gaza coordinate their efforts immediately. International transitional forces must arrive before it's too late. Because if Hamas manages to re-establish itself as the only force capable of maintaining order, Gaza could...
Yeah, guys, it's like TikTok. Like if we had ever a chance for, I don't know, Egypt, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia to come and bring a military force in Gaza to make sure that Hamas doesn't gain control, the time was yesterday, because every single second that you delay that, Hamas has a chance to reestablish itself in Gaza. And then if you eventually come up, like, you should have had that army ready. Like, if this plan was serious in any way, you guys should have had that army ready before you even had this peace agreement ready to go. Because every second that you delay that, now once you create that army, if you want to send them to Gaza, you have to be dealing with a stronger Hamas. Okay? And I don't, guys, I might not be correct, but I have a suspicion that you are not going to be as efficient as IDF soldiers. So yeah, good luck with that. You should have done this immediately, as soon as, you know, Hamas is going to get stronger if you delay. Like, maybe Hamas, maybe someone else, but they're, you know, I don't know. This is true. Yeah, I don't see this happening.
Hamas manages to re-establish itself as the only force capable of maintaining order, Gaza could sink into absolute chaos. It could descend into a large-scale civil war, or even permanent Israeli military occupation, which would be disastrous for both sides. Of course, the arrival of international troops would not be enough either for the plan to really work.
It wouldn't be disastrous for Israel to permanently go into Gaza. It wouldn't be disastrous if when they go there, they start controlling everything, the government and the media and the education system. That would be the solution.
Of course, the arrival of international troops would not be enough either for the plan to really work. It must arrive with the determination and resolve to fight these groups decisively. That's why at Visual Politic, we continue to believe that this is the crux of the matter. What will really decide whether we're looking at real peace or a house of cards. But while we watch to see how events unfold, it's your turn. Do you think Hamas will regain control of Gaza? Do you think Trump's plan could fail and that the Palestinian group will not surrender power and its weapons? Could Gaza end up plunged into a real civil war? Well, leave your comments below and let's see what you think. But first...
Yeah, actually, do leave your comments on my channel as well. Anyways, guys, I'm going to go recover my voice. Sorry for my shitty voice. I know I sound terrible. I have a cold. But this was, guys, this, by doing this with each other here, we actually now have more detail compared to anybody else talking about the whole conflict. And, you know, I go and get the best videos for you guys, and we watch it here together and we comment on it together. So the more you come to these live streams, the better you are compared to other people, because I don't just bring any video. I just make sure that it's the ones that I think is going to be the best at the moment, the best that gives us an advantage in arguing these points at the moment that these things are happening, right? So again, and because we're watching it together and we're commenting on it together, it's much more fun reviewing these things than just doing it alone. So if you enjoy that, make sure you subscribe here, because we do this almost every day. I don't know if we're going to do it tomorrow because I need to maybe rest my throat. Maybe, but almost every day. But maybe tomorrow as well. I don't know. I feel bad not doing a live stream with you guys. Yeah, I feel bad. So I do want to come tomorrow. But I'll see how much I recover. Rest Taurus and rest Armin. Yeah, maybe I should rest tomorrow. I don't know. I have a debate. By the way, this is not my last stream. I have a debate with a Muslim on the Persian channel in about half an hour. And tomorrow I have another debate with a mullah inside Iran. And the Muslim. So on my Persian channel, I'm going to debate marriage in Islam versus marriage among atheists in Islam with a Muslim inside Iran in about half an hour on the Persian channel with my current condition. And then tomorrow I have a debate with a very famous, well-known mullah inside Iran tomorrow. So I hope, I don't know if I could do well with my current conditions, but I'll try. Anyways, guys, make sure you like the stream. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the bell notification and all that. And I'm Israel Chai, Javid Shah. Love you guys. See you guys tomorrow. Mwah.